Hey guys, it's Jalen and I'm here today with another writing video. So I know it's been a hot second since I posted anything on this channel, but I thought I would come back with just a little writing update since I realized I haven't done one of these in a really long time and I've written so much has happened, so I thought that this would be a good way to just jump back into it because I know I haven't posted in a month. I have had a super busy July and August. I don't think I've been home the past 5 weekends. I moved, as you can tell, because the background's different. Myself and my roommates moved to a new place just because our old place, I mean, we moved for many reasons, but we lived close to our university and student housing is like the grungiest shit ever. But you pay so much money for like the lowest quality of housing because landlords charge you so much just to live close to the university. But now that we're all starting to graduate, there's kind of no point being close to the school but far from everything else. So we just moved to a different place that's way nicer, different priorities, you know, and also our landlord was a little crazy. If you saw my vlog where I talked about the time that she moved into our house without telling us. So the move was a bit hectic, but I'm super excited to be moved in now and also to have this really nice background that I love. I was just so happy to move into a house where the walls were like a normal color, because in my old house they were like, my mom called the color of the walls in my old house baby poop. Anyways, that house served me well, it treated me well, but the tapestry is no more. The tapestry was just the background to cover up my ugly ass walls. The past 2 weeks I've just been away on a bunch of like family trips. We went on a kayaking trip and then we went to a family reunion, and so because I was away for like 2 weeks and I went away after like 3 weeks of like 3 of the busiest weeks of my life because I was like moving, I was in a condensed online course, I was working, I didn't have anything pre-filmed, and then I went away from my camera for 2 weeks. And obviously you're not going to film anything when you're on an island off the grid and in a kayak. Since I've been away for so long, I've been thinking about a lot of videos that I want to make. So the last writing update I posted, I think I filmed in like April, so quite a lot has happened. I'll start with my novel, since it's like my primary project. So I've been working on a novel called Vinegar since September of last year. I finished part 1 of the book. So the book is split into 2 parts. I expect part 1 will be a bit longer. My word count is about 55,000 at the moment, and I'm done part 1. So that was very exciting. I don't think part 2 will take me as long. I've had a very slow writing process because from September to February, I was writing the book for school. I wrote a little bit and then I edited it for months for workshop, and then I wrote a little bit and then I edited it for months again for workshop. And I've just been taking a very relaxed approach with it, in that I've been doing a lot of editing as I go. I have a workshop group, so we've met and we're gonna meet again soon, and that's just kind of to get the editing done while I'm drafting. I realized a little bit ago there was a big developmental edit that I wanted to make, and when I first had this realization I was like, oh, do I want to do that? Because it was going to be a huge edit, and I'm going to have to not just add in scenes, but I'm going to have to take in a big change to my character's emotional state as a result of these new things that I'm going to change over a period of like 7 chapters. And so for a little bit I was toying with it and I was like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Is it the right choice? And then I kind of realized that if I weren't to do it, it would literally just be because of laziness. And it wouldn't be because of doing what's best for the book. And I was like, okay, like really, am I not going to make this change because it's going to take what? A couple months to make the change that's done. Since I am done part 1, I'm going to take a break from drafting the book for quite a while to do some big edits. I did pretty deep edits on chapters 1 through 5 because those got workshopped for school. So those chapters are quite clean. They haven't had deep line edits, but they're fairly clean. But everything beyond that, so 6 through 14, hasn't had deep developmental edits. So I'm gonna take a while to really sort out the content, make any changes I wanna make. I wanna go into part 2 feeling like everything is as clean as I can make it. I think that that will just give me some peace of mind, and I'm the kind of person who gets very overwhelmed with editing. I like editing once I start doing it, but the thought of it is really overwhelming to me. And so if I get to the end of a book and I know there are tons of changes I want to make, it's so overwhelming, which is why I've been doing it as I go, and I've been quite happy with that. It's been a nice process. I've not been rushing it. So I'm gonna take some time off just to edit, and then I'm also going to then take a break from the book to finish my other novel. And my other novel is called Someone Will Save You, and it's a rewrite of a YA novel that I wrote a couple years ago. I don't plan to take on new young adult projects, but this is a project that has been with me for years, and I'm really emotionally attached to it, and I really love it, and I really still want to publish it, and so I've been rewriting it. I started writing Someone Will Save You in July of last year, and it was my main project for a couple months, and then I started working on Honey Vinegar for school. It kind of shifted to the back burner, and also because I've kind of settled with the fact that I don't really want to debut with Someone Will Save You, I want to debut with Honey Vinegar, because Honey Vinegar is like very in line with the type of books that I want to write in the future, whereas Someone Will Save You is less so, just because it's YA, and I don't really plan on having a prolific career as a YA author. I had kind of a turbulent experience with it. For a while, I was just really not liking the book, basically for the whole writing process, honestly, of this rewrite. And it was really sad, it was really upsetting me that I wasn't liking it. Like, I would write it and I just wouldn't be happy with any aspect of it. And it was really unfortunate because it's like I liked the characters, I liked the plot and everything. In fact, I love the characters and the plot. The story is so dear to me. It's something that I've been carrying around with me for, you know, a good 5 years. The main character is a character I feel really close with just because she's been in my head for so long. You know, when you've had a character in your mind for so long, you just feel like you have like a personal relationship with them. This book is something that in the past made me really happy. I would work on it and it just would put me in a good mindset. And it was always something that I really enjoyed working on. So it was almost just really upsetting for me that for reasons I didn't understand what they were, when I was writing the rewrite, I just didn't like any of it. And I was like, it's not turning out good. And I think I was putting a lot of pressure on myself because it was a rewrite, and so I felt like it had to be amazing, you know? Like, you've had your trial run where you messed it up, now you should make it great. So I think that that was really messing with me a little. And so I really didn't touch the book much. When I would write it, it would be like a week where I'd work on it and I'd write 10,000 words and then I wouldn't touch it for months. Around, I don't know when this was. Late March or April? Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was even early May. I have no idea when this was. I just had this sudden burst of inspiration to work on the book when I hadn't touched it in a really long time. And suddenly I was like, I really want to write Someone Will Save You. The way that I solved my problem where I hadn't been liking the book, and I'd had so many dumb reasons why I tried to justify why it was difficult. I was like, oh, I'm not liking it because it's young adult and I don't really want to write with young adult. I'm not enjoying it because it's a rewrite and like, you know, it's not as fun. I'm not enjoying it as much because of this or this or this. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm not enjoying it. It's probably a combination of a bunch of things. But what if I just decided to like it? So I just like made the conscious choice to enjoy the book and enjoy writing the book again. And I loved it. First day back to writing it, I wrote over 5,000 words in one day, which is unheard of for me. Like for other writers that might be normal or that might happen every so often. I don't write 5K words in a day. That's happened to me one other time in my life. And that was like in high school. I enjoyed it so much and I was like, oh, this is what it's like to love writing this book. I remember now. And it was just so nice. Like I think that it's something that I'll remember next time I'm not enjoying a project that I know I love. I'll just go like, hey, you can just consciously decide right now to enjoy this. You don't have to just sit around like hating it for whatever reason. Like just decide to love it. Like it's your art. To be honest, I haven't written since then. That was quite a while ago just because I've been so busy and I've been doing so many other things. I kind of decided that after part 1 of Honey Vinegar, I was gonna do my edits and I was gonna finish Someone Will Save You. I estimate that I have around 30,000 words left of Someone Will Save You. I think I'm about 50K in. I would really like to write the rest of it just straight through, because I've been writing it in these little spurts. It's been a side project, and now that I've kind of like refound a love for the book, I kind of was like, you know what, I want to actually immerse myself in it. You know, you only get to draft a book. Well, I was gonna say you only get to draft a book once, but this is actually my second time drafting the book. But I doubt I will do a full draft of this book again. It'll probably just get edits. Drafting is my favorite part of the process, so I want to actually really immerse myself in it and just really get into it. That'll probably happen in the fall whenever I'm done my Honey Vinegar edits. The first draft will be done, and then that can just be kind of like something off my plate, and I won't be trying to draft 2 books at a time. Gonna just give Someone Will Save You its time, and I think that that will be really nice. So that's basically all my stuff for novels. I guess this is kind of a new thing, and I'm gonna make a full separate video of this. I've actually been writing a lot of poetry lately. In May, decided like, okay, I really want to learn how to write poetry. And that was something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And the reason I hadn't done it was just because I thought I was bad at poetry, but I'd literally like not tried it. I could say that I was bad at poetry just like I could say that I'm bad at juggling or speaking Japanese. I've never done any of those things or made an effort to learn. Actually, I used to know how to juggle, that's a lie. Currently, I don't know how to do either of those things, so obviously don't know how to do them, but like, everything is a learned skill. So I was just kind of being like, I'm bad at poetry, I'm bad at it. So I was like, okay, I want to try to learn poetry. I don't necessarily think I'll ever be amazing at it, but I feel like I would enjoy writing it, and so I'm gonna try. And so I set myself a goal of writing 10 poems over the summer. If I write 10 poems and by the end of 10 poems I feel like I have learned nothing, maybe that's a sign that poetry is not for me and I'm not good at it. I have a feeling that by the end of 10 poems, I will feel like I've learned something. You know, it's hard to write 10 of a thing and not be better at it. Like, if I think about my first short story compared to my 10th short story, it's night and day. I was a dum-dum who didn't know what I was doing on the first short story. By the 10th short story, like, I was getting things published. I was like, I need to just make an effort. I'm not saying that by the 10th poem it would be publishable, because no. But I feel like learning, make an effort to learn instead of just resigning to the fact that you're bad at something that you've never done before. So I've written 9 poems out of my 10, and I do have an idea for the 10th one. I just sit down and write it. I'll probably do that this week. I mean, I am close to my deadline because it is like August 20th, so time's a ticking. And then finally, let's chat short stories. So I actually have 4 short stories that I've either written or am in the process of writing that I can talk about since my last update. So the first story that I wrote is called She Always Kills the Animals. You might know this one because I have a vlog of me writing in it, which I will leave that in the cards. So I wrote that story at the end of May. Honestly, it was the best because I was feeling like I hadn't really made a lot of progress because I'm at the point with my novel, with Honey Vinegar, I mean, and also honestly with Someone Will Save You, with both my novels, where I'm like dead in the middle. You know, you can't see light at either end of the tunnel. I'm deep enough in that it feels like I've been writing it for so long, but I'm far enough from the end that the end is not in sight. I was kind of feeling like I wasn't making any progress whatsoever. Even though I was making progress, it just didn't feel like anything. Like, I could write 10,000 words in my novel and be like, no progress has been made, because all I did was get deeper into the tunnel. When I just wrote a story in like 2 days, I felt on top of the world. I was talking about this with friends last night, and we were talking about like finishing stories and how it'd been a while since we finished a story, and I was like, oh my god, like the last time I finished a story, I was like, this must be what cocaine feels like. I was like, I can do literally anything right now. I finished a story. So that was great. So She Always Kills the Animals is a pretty short piece. It's only 2,200 words, which I've really been enjoying slightly shorter fiction lately. For a while, everything I wrote was like 4,000 to 6,000 words, but I've been playing more around in the 2,000 to 3,500 range, which has been really great. I feel like it's just me learning to be more concise. So this story is bizarro, but what's new? I had this image in my mind of these 2 characters standing in a koi pond in like a backyard koi pond while there was a party happening in the house, and it was like a fancy house, like it was like a rich person house. I had a very, very clear image of this. It was nighttime, and this is how most of my stories start. Like, I get an image and I'm like, oh, intriguing. So I'd had this image in mind a while of this koi pond and these 2 people standing in it. I could see both of them pretty clearly. I was pretty sure they were a couple. And then I was also pretty sure that they were probably house guests at this party. And I'd had that in mind for a while, and I kind of was like, this is probably gonna turn into a story at some point, but I'm just not sure exactly what that will be. And then everything started to kind of just click, as usually happens for me when I'm writing a short story. Whatever weird image turns into a story starts to click, and I started writing it. So this story was really inspired by Mouthful of Birds by Savannah Schweblin. The idea is actually somewhat similar to one of the ideas in this collection, but I had the idea beforehand. Seeing a similar idea play out in this story kind of made me realize like what kind of tone I wanted that idea to have. There's a story in this collection about a father and his daughter eats birds alive. It's the title story. It's a great story. My weird koi pond idea, like, I had this idea of the girl like eats animals alive. I'd been playing with that for a while, and then when I encountered a similar story in here, I was like, oh, I think that that's the tone that I want to have. So when I started drafting it, I wanted it to have this like eerie, tense, dark feel, but then when I started writing it, it felt like almost like the story was mocking itself, like vaguely satirical, and I was like, no, come back, this isn't the tone I wanted. Then as I wrote it more, I felt like the sarcasm merged well with the darkness, and I'm actually like really happy with how the story turned out. I say that this story is the opposite of my personal energy. It's only like 2,200 words, so it's hard for me to say too much what it's about without spoiling it, but it's basically about this young man and his girlfriend. They're like in their early 20s, they're co-workers. They've been having like a summer fling, and right after they break up, and then as kind of a last kick at the can, they go break into a stranger's backyard while those people are having a party to go swim in that koi pond. And while they're there, the main character is just kind of like reflecting on his relationship with this girl. Her name's Lolly. I wanted her to have kind of like a manic pixie dream girl name. He's kind of like reflecting on why he's attracted to her. A friend of mine calls it the "Oops, that's my kink" story, which I find hilarious. The thing I was really happy about with this story is that I felt like the crux of the story came to me quite clearly, and I was like, oh, this is what the story is about psychologically. This is what the main character is wrestling with psychologically. This is something that can take me like a year to figure out. Like my story Wishbone, literally a couple weeks ago, I'd been writing this story for a year, or working on a year. I wrote it a year ago, and I was like, oh, that's the crux of the story. Whereas for She Always Kills the Animals, I felt like the crux of the story was just very present and clear, and I liked how focused I felt like the story had a very narrow focus, which I was quite happy with. And then after that, I wrote a story that I was less happy with. The next story that I wrote is the last story that I finished. I think I wrote this in June, and I also have a vlog of me writing this, or partially writing this. It's called A Word That Rhymes with Fishhook. So I wrote this story because I was in a class, a summer class, on post-apocalyptic film, and the professor let you propose a creative project instead of doing the final essay, and I was like, I don't feel like writing an essay right now. So I asked if I could do a screenplay, and he's super chill, and he was like, yeah. Obviously, like, it's an apocalyptic film class, so the script had to be apocalyptic. So I wrote my script about a robot apocalypse, and it was kind of like from the point of view of the robot. I mean, as much as a screenplay can be from a point of view. The thing about me is, like, I get very attached to projects very easily. Like, it takes like 2 pages of writing something for me to be like, I would die for this character. And so I got really easily attached to this idea. And I was kind of like, I'm so bad at screenwriting. I'm attached to this though, so I should write it as a short story. So I tried writing it as a short story, and honestly, I'm just not happy with how it turned out. It's way more genre than any of my other stories. My other stories have been all like lit fic. This one is more genre, and I don't even think I've ever, like, okay, I have read, but very few genre fiction short stories. So I barely know, like, how do people do that much world building? Like, how are they meant to be structured? Like, my whole education and my whole background is with a literary style short story, and that's like how I know how to write short stories. So I got to the point in the story where like the world was ending and there was all this action, and I was like, oh my god, I've just remembered that I'm terrible at writing action. So I really wasn't that pleased with how it turned out, unfortunately. It might be something I come back to later, tinker with, but for the moment I'm like, okay, I got that out of my system. I was writing it as a screenplay because I had to for school, and then while writing the screenplay I was like, oh, but wouldn't it be better as a short story? And then I wrote it as a short story, and I was like, nope, it really was better as a screenplay. It was meant to be a screenplay. I'm just bad at screenwriting, so I really didn't execute the vision that well. I have 2 stories that I'm in the process of writing. I probably will touch on them just pretty briefly and save them for my next update when hopefully they're done. So the first one does not have a title yet. I'm still playing around with titles. I got both of these ideas for these stories on the same day, and so I kind of started them at the same time. And that was when I was away from home, and so I really haven't had much time to write because I've been on like a camping trip and at a family reunion, and obviously I didn't have time to write. Well, I didn't have a way to write when I was on an island that I'd kayaked to, and I also really didn't have time to write when I was at a family reunion surrounded by my entire extended family of like almost 30 people. For the past like week and a half, these 2 stories have just been kind of sitting in my head, brewing. So the first one doesn't really have a title. Like I said, I think the title will probably come to me as I'm writing. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a story that's like really difficult to title. So I hate that. This story is a classic Shaylin story because it is about birds. My current working title, which I don't think I'm gonna keep, is How Music Falls from the Sky. I don't know, it just seems like too much of a title of like a YA romance. The story is about this woman who used to be a concert pianist, but then she got in an accident where she lost 3 of her fingers, and so she can't play piano anymore. Now she's quite like reclusive. We're following her in like 2 timelines. So in the first timeline, where she is in the present, where she's kind of obsessed with this crow that keeps coming to her clothesline, and then in the past we see her relationship with this other pianist that she knew, that she was like training with, practicing with. I used to play piano and I don't even know what the term is, so I think I found like a good heart to the story. I've just been struggling to structure it, but I think I just have to figure out that as I write it. The other story that I'm writing, I started at the same time, and it's okay. So when I started this story, I was like, this is kind of dumb. It's a dumb story, and I know that it's dumb, and I wasn't really intending to ever write it seriously. I kind of was like, I'm just gonna write this for myself, you know, because I had the idea. And it was a bit more like darkly comic or satirical, when that's not normally my style. Like, my stories are pretty serious. I'm not funny enough to write comic fiction. I really was like, I'm just gonna write this for myself. It doesn't really fit my collection that well because it's just kind of comic. And the story is called, I apologize in advance for this title. It's called The Subtle but Key Difference Between Shoegaze and Dream Pop. And it's about this girl, one summer she's working as a roadie, and this like really chaotic relationship that she has with this fellow roadie, and she's being quite self-destructive. And initially I kind of, like I said, I was seeing this kind of comically, and as a result, I think I wasn't really giving the characters much depth. Like, the main character, I hadn't really explored any backstory for her. I felt like I understood her personality, but I hadn't really explored a backstory for her. And so I think as a result, I wasn't humanizing her enough. It's kind of hard to explain, but while I was writing it, I was like, this is a comic story, but it felt like there was something sad to it. You know, like I could feel kind of a sadness there because I felt like the character was like really self-destructive. Halfway through the story, I go away on this camping trip and I don't have a way to write, and so the story is just sitting in my head. And while I was away, I got this idea for like a very random small character detail. Since she was fairly young, maybe a teenager, she would go into clothing stores and, you know, like on button-up shirts, on the inside there's the extra button. She would cut off the extra button and just steal the extra button. And then I thought maybe as she got older, this would extend to her stealing it from other people. You know, like she's at a party, she steals a button from a shirt in the closet, or, you know, stealing this button from partners or something. I know it's so small and it seems kind of random, but for some reason I was like, I felt a lot of feeling attached to that, and I was like, oh, this is a person she's just trying to hold on to other people or even strangers by just collecting like a single button from them. It's just like this incredibly false way of having a piece of another person. Kind of realized that the story was not just a comic laugh at really pretentious music people being pretentious about music, which is what the title comes from. Like, sounds like the kind of thing that a pretentious music person would say. Which all the characters in the story are. And I realized that really it's a story about a young woman who's trying so hard to connect with other people but can't, and she's just hurting herself in the process. And I was like, oh, that's actually sad. Long tangent, but that's basically the story of how I started writing the story, and I was like, lol, stupid comic story. And then I realized that actually maybe it was quite a serious story. Long tangent, but that was kind of just like a weird realization that I had. I thought it was kind of an interesting story about how the story really evolved. Anyways, that's basically it for this update. I don't think I have anything else more to say. I think that's basically everything I've written. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you've been writing recently. I love to hear you guys' little updates. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, you can always send me an ask on Tumblr.